In the ancient world of Larnithia, a land where magic coursed through the earth like blood in veins, the kingdoms thrived under the protection of ancient spirits. These spirits, powerful beings that governed the elements and the passage of time, ensured that balance was maintained throughout the realm. However, as with all things, balance is a delicate force, one easily disturbed. At the heart of Larnithia lay the kingdom of Eryndor, a land once revered for its lush forests, towering mountains, and endless fields of golden grain. Its people were prosperous, and its capital, Thalia, gleamed with white stone buildings and a central palace made of crystal. The rulers of Eryndor, the House of Therin, had long been entrusted with safeguarding a powerful artifact, the Eye of Orlaith, a gemstone said to contain the essence of the most ancient of the elemental spirits. As long as the eye remained within the royal palace, peace and prosperity were guaranteed. But peace is never eternal. Dark forces, long dormant in the far reaches of the world, had begun to stir, and the delicate balance that held Larnithia together was about to unravel. Alara, a young woman of 18, had grown up in a small village on the outskirts of Thalia. The daughter of a blacksmith, she was no stranger to hard work and had spent her childhood running errands, delivering tools to the villagers, and practicing swordsmanship with her father. Despite her humble upbringing, Alara had always felt that her destiny lay beyond the borders of her village. She had heard the stories of Eryndor's greatness, of its heroic past, and the ancient spirits that watched over the kingdom. Alara had always dreamed of becoming one of the royal sentinels, the elite guard that protected the royal family and the Eye of Orlaith itself. But such dreams were far from her reach. Her father, Marek, was a kind but pragmatic man who believed that their place was in the village, living simple lives away from the intrigue of the capital. Yet Alara's dreams persisted. She often ventured into the nearby Silverwood forest, a vast expanse of trees that bordered the village, to practice her swordsmanship and imagine herself as one of the kingdom's legendary warriors. One autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest was bathed in golden light, Alara was returning home from her practice. The day had been long, and her arms were sore from hours of training. As she made her way through the familiar trees, a strange sensation washed over her, an uneasy feeling, as though the air itself had changed. The birds, which usually filled the forest with their songs, had gone silent. The wind had stilled, and the trees no longer whispered their secrets. Alara paused, gripping the hilt of her wooden practice sword tightly. She scanned the tree line, her heart beginning to race. The forest, which had always been a place of comfort for her, now felt ominous and foreign. Then, out of the silence, a figure emerged. It was a man, cloaked in black, his face obscured by a deep hood. He moved with unnatural grace, his step soundless on the forest floor. As he approached, Alara felt a coldness seep into her bones. "Who are you?" she demanded, raising her practice sword in a defensive stance. The figure stopped a few paces away and slowly lifted his head, revealing eyes that glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. "The time has come," he said, his voice low and filled with menace. Eryndor's day of peace are at an end. Before Alara could respond, the man raised his hand, and a wave of dark energy erupted from his palm, rushing toward her. She barely had time to react, instinctively diving to the side as the force smashed into the trees behind her, splintering them into pieces. Alara scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure advanced, his eyes locked on her with deadly intent. Desperation surged through her as she realized she was no match for him with just a practice sword. Just as the dark figure prepared to strike again, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The air around them shimmered, and suddenly, from the depths of the forest, a blinding light burst forth. The figure recoiled, hissing in anger as the light enveloped him. Alara shielded her eyes, and when the light faded, the figure was gone. In his place stood a tall, ethereal woman, her body made of shimmering light and her eyes glowing with a soft golden hue. "You are the one," the woman said, her voice resonating like a melody. "The guardian of Eryndor." Alara blinked in confusion. "Guardian? What are you talking about?" The woman smiled gently, though there was a sadness in her eyes. "I am Elandra, the spirit of light. The darkness that plagues this land has been growing for centuries, but now it has awoken fully. The Eye of Orlith is in danger, and with it the fate of Eryndor itself. You, Alara, have been chosen to protect it." Alara shook her head, disbelief flooding her mind. "But I'm just a blacksmith's daughter. I'm no warrior, no hero." "That may be true," Elandra said, "but the Eye has chosen you. The power within you is not one of birth or station. It is one of destiny. You must travel to the capital and seek out the king. Only there will you find the answers you seek." Before Alara could protest further, the light around Elandra began to fade, and the spirit's form dissolved into the air, leaving Alara alone once more in the now darkening forest. The next morning, Alara wasted no time. She packed what little she had and set off for the capital, her father's protests ringing in her ears. The journey was long and perilous, but Alara's determination carried her forward. She felt the weight of the task before her, though she still didn't fully understand it. She couldn't shake the feeling that her encounter with the dark figure was only the beginning of something much larger, something that would change the fate of Larnithia itself. When Alara finally reached Thalir, the capital was in chaos. Word had spread of strange occurrences, crops failing, storms gathering out of season, and reports of dark creatures roaming the outskirts of the kingdom. The people were frightened, and the once vibrant streets of Thalir were now filled with whispers of doom. Alara made her way to the royal palace, her heart pounding with every step. She had no idea how she would gain an audience with the king, but she knew she had to try. As she approached the palace gates, a group of guards blocked her path. "What business do you have with the king?" one of them asked, his tone sharp and suspicious. "I need to speak with him," Alara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's a matter of great importance." The guards exchanged glances, clearly unimpressed by the young woman standing before them. "The king is not seeing anyone right now. The kingdom is in a state of emergency." Alara's frustration surged, but before she could argue further, a voice called out from behind the guards, "Let her through!" The guards parted, revealing a tall man with dark hair and piercing green eyes. He wore the armor of the royal sentinels, the very warriors Alara had once dreamed of joining. "I am Captain Doran of the Sentinels," the man said, stepping forward. "You've traveled far." I can see it in your eyes. What brings you to the palace?" Alara took a deep breath, her hands still trembling slightly from the journey. "I was sent by the Spirit of Light, Elandra. She said I was the guardian of Eryndor, and that I needed to protect the Eye of Orlaith. Doran's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Alara feared he wouldn't believe her. But then he nodded slowly. "Come with me." The palace was even more grand than Alara had imagined. Its halls lined with tapestries that depicted the history of the kingdom and the great battles of old. Doran led her through the labyrinthine corridors until they reached a grand chamber where King Eryndor III sat on his throne, his face etched with worry. "My lord," Doran said, bowing before the king. "This young woman claims to have been chosen by the Spirites to protect the Eye of Orlaith." The king's eyes, heavy with the weight of his kingdom's troubles, focused on Alara. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice low but commanding. Alara nodded, though she felt a lump form in her throat. "Yes, your majesty." "I was visited by Elandra, the spirit of light. She said that the darkness is rising, and that I have been chosen to stop it." For a moment, the king was silent, his gaze piercing as though he could see into the very depths of her soul. Then, with a heavy sigh, he stood. "The Eye of Orlaith is indeed in danger," he said gravely. "The ancient seals that once protected this kingdom are weakening. Dark forces are stirring in the north. Forces we thought had been vanquished long ago. If what you say is true, then you are our only hope." Alara swallowed hard. "What do I need to do?"